Hello, everybody. Welcome to Foundations of Emotional Resilience. My name is Trisha Pardo. For any of you that this is the first time you've been in my presence or in this digital space of mine, this is a condensed workshop. Okay, so what I'm going to go over here today is a short, brief, hopefully 20-minute overhaul of everything we covered in Insight and Impact in January. So I'm bringing it here, right, to the Agility Accelerator, and for any of the other levels that are here doing a touch-up or a tune-up or, just kind of coming in to poke at it a little bit. I'm bringing this here so that you have access to do the work. So we're going to explore today some essential strategies to build and apply resilience in daily life. Now, I want to start by understanding, right, or creating this space for understanding that resilience isn't, and I'm going to say this, it's not about bouncing back. It's about catapulting forward and thriving amid challenges. Okay, so resilience is an amazing, beautiful, incredible ability to adapt, to pivot, to stay aligned with your aspirations, goals, if that's a word that you use, even under pressure. So I want you to think about this for a minute and push pause if you'd like. Hopefully you have a piece of paper. If you are in Insight and Impact, you've got the worksheet, pull it out, do some review. Anyway, how do you currently handle stress and setbacks? I want you to think about that. How flexible, bendable, pliable are you? Can you change, shift, morph? Or does it feel more like I'm super rigid, right? When things don't go my way, I get all tensed up and it's and quite honestly, I tend to break, right? Kind of like that hard, rigid piece of glass, right? When we're rigid like that, we're not resilient at all. And so we don't have the ability to go with the flow. So ask yourself, how do I currently handle stress and setbacks? Answer it honestly. This is for you. It's not for me. And then ask yourself, where could I improve? And if it's I'm rigid in certain situations, that's even better. Break it down. Get your categories going. And we don't have time to really go into that, but you've got your home, you've got your relationship with your husband and your children, right? Like that's two subcategories in one category. And maybe you have other categories as well. There could be mom, right? Like we all have aging parents. It could be siblings. I don't know, right? Like I don't know your family dynamics, but you have this category and all of those things are subcategories. And is there, how do you handle the stress of an adolescent versus the stress of a spouse that travels all the time? And, right? Like, so you've got to be able to do that. Now, to deepen our understanding and bring in some practical changes, I'd like to break it down a little bit further by doing an audit. And again, if you have the worksheet, yay, get in there and start to take a look at that. Okay, so if we're going to do an audit, number one, write this down, strengths. I want you to list the resilience strategies that you've successfully used in the past. Anything leading up to today that has worked really well for you and in forms of resilience, as I've described it here, being bendable, flexible, pliable, able to continue to move forward even in the face of adversity, right? That's resilience. So what are those strategies? They might look like maintaining a positive outlook, staying organized, leaning on a supportive network, whatever they are, write them down. Then number two, challenges. Okay, so number two is challenges. Identify specific triggers, prompting events, or scenarios where you, in particular, find it difficult to maintain resilience. Now, this could be, again, break out your categories. If we pull in a challenge, work, business, profession, right? Whatever that looks like for you. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're a CEO and you go to an office, maybe you're an attorney, I don't know. But how do you receive criticism in there? From your boss, from your coworkers, your colleagues, your peers, whatever you call them. How do I receive criticism? Facing unexpected changes, right? Policy changes, this, that, other things, right? Like, oh, how do I face those unexpected changes? Or how do I manage those personal conflicts, right? Like, I have a team, we're on a project, and our personalities don't really match. Man, how do I manage that? And then number 3, opportunities. So I want you to pinpoint areas where small adjustments could yield significant improvement. So, for example, let's take procrastination. Under stress is a challenge, right? Procrastinating things when we're under stress is a challenge. And it's a challenge a lot of us face. So, if we're looking for opportunities, consider this. Consider setting smaller, more frequent deadlines. So when I teach an aspiration plan, it's like, okay, here's our target. Some of you might refer to these as goals. I don't use goals. So we have this aspiration. Think, here it is, right? Like this is point Z. We're at point A. This is when I want to reach point Z or need to reach point Z. I'm at step A. I got to fill B through Y. So if I break every little activity, action, whatever it is that I have to do along the way, if I break it into smaller, more frequent little deadlines, then it's just these little tiny tasks that I've got to meet along the way. And then boom, I get there. Not overwhelming. I don't procrastinate because it's not like this big thing, right? So think about that. Audit yourself. You know what? Check back to the platform, check back to foundations, depending upon when you're listening to this, there may actually be a resilience audit up there. I know when I'm recording it right now, I have the coping audit, habit audit, and the agility quiz, the emotional agility quiz. That's there. But check, go to the foundation and see if it's there. Anyway, I don't want to get too off track here. So let's talk about stress management techniques. I've got all of this wonderful water here. I'm going to actually pull some out. So what is effective stress management? Especially when we're talking about resilience. Well, stress management's the key to having the ability to build resilience in the first place. So recognizing stress patterns is number 1 under these stress management techniques. So 1, start by identifying your top 3 stress indicators across the physical, emotional, and behavioral dimensions. Just going to keep it simple, right? Just those 3 dimensions. In bigger programs, we break that down into more dimensions. But for here, right, just identify those top 3 stress indicators. So tension headaches, feelings of anxiety, and withdrawing from responsibilities. Those would go into those stress indicators, into those dimensions, right? Physical, emotional, and behavioral. Now, number 2, real-time stress interruptions. Sorry. And so how do I interrupt it? What are the techniques that I can use to interrupt stress in real time? Now, I have a whole bunch of them that work extremely well for me. I know that my clients, all kind of gravitate to the different things. We go through a series of tests, testing them to find, their mastery level. But, if I was to pick out, 3 that are highly effective for the general population of folks that I work with. A physiological sigh, right? Resets your nervous system by taking 2 quick inhales through the nose, followed by a long exhale through the mouth, right? Physiological sigh, right? So you want to try those. But then there's grounding exercises. So this is where you focus on your senses. List 5 things you can see, 4 you can touch, 3 you can hear, 2 you can smell, and 1 you can taste. Some people like to do 5 of each. And then there's reframing. Now, reframing can take some skill building, but what we want to do is shift that perspective on the stressor, right? We want to shift it. So instead of viewing a tight deadline as a threat, we want to consider it a challenge that enhances our ability, right? To manage our time effectively. Like, ooh, I've always been a procrastinator. This is going to suck, yada, yada, yada. I might as well block out a chunk of time way down here. Instead, no, right? Like, oh, this is the perfect project to finally challenge myself to manage my time more effectively. I'm going to put 10-minute increments on the calendar every single day, whatever that is, right? So you want to get to a point where you're able to create a resilience roadmap. Now, this takes a clear understanding from the audit, but I'm going to run through this really quick. Okay. Excuse me one moment. A little bit of a barky dog. So, okay, so we're creating this roadmap. I want you to select one key area from that opportunities list. It's number 1. Number 2, set a specific action for that opportunity. So, for instance, let's say that opportunity that you chose is improving time management. Your first step could be plan your week every Sunday. So now step 1 in managing our time is I'm setting up a chunk of time on Sunday, and I do this, actually. I do this every Sunday morning, right? I sit in here in this space with my coffee, and I'm planning the week, or I'm reviewing how it's set up, making any tweaks and adjustments, because sometimes I'll do the whole month. Anyway, right? Boom. And then you want to define those achievable goals. So number 3 is define the achievable goals. Ensure that these actions are manageable and maintainable within your current schedule. So you're sitting there on Sunday. Clearly, you're not working. Well, depending. I mean, I suppose that there are some folks that do work on Sundays. So I apologize for that. But you're sitting there on Sunday, or whatever that day off is that you choose to plan for the week ahead, and you're saying, "Oof, it's overwhelming to look at the whole week." Start small then, right? Like plan one day at a time, but make sure that you're setting up space the day before to set up the day that's going to follow. Because you want to, number 4, ensure your impact. So you want to reflect on how these actions are going to positively impact your resilience. Which means, at the end, you're going to definitely want to do some review. You're going to want to, observe along the way and, make note, like this isn't something that happens overnight, but, you want to reflect on those actions and how they positively impacted your resilience. Maybe, I don't know, maybe planning your week will reduce some last minute stress and increase your overall productivity. It's up to you to be connected, observe, make notes, celebrate the little wins. Like, oh my God, I felt so accomplished today. I just did a bunch of 10-minute. Anyway, you get the idea. And then, last but not least, is integration and application. So in order to effectively integrate, let me get my notes, and to effectively integrate these insights and those techniques that we went through, right? All of the things. You got to do 3 more things. So the first one is, number 1, you have to have regular practice. Consistency turns action into, we'll call it habits. I love to teach why living without habits fixes everything. Consistency turns actions into routine, right? Into a lifestyle, into a way of being. So schedule those regular check-ins with yourself to assess your progress. Be open to making adjustments, right? Like, this isn't about perfection. This is about, creating flow that feels good. Number 2, use your tools. Make sure you keep your chosen techniques readily accessible, because I'm going to back up here and say, consistency, right? If it creates habits, then, complacency is the killer of all things. Yeah. So if we don't have those chosen techniques readily accessible, if we're just going through life on autopilot, and we tested something for a week and it worked well, and then the following week we're like, okay, cool, I have everything I need, and then we forget to bring our toolbox with us, and we break down, get a flat tire, have a meltdown, whatever it is, right? Like, that's not effective. That's complacency. So whatever that means for you, reminders for breathing exercises. I have my clients change their screensaver often. We just put a compass on our screensavers this month. When I'm recording this was the end of February. So we just put a compass on there, and it was, a 5-step process. I think it was a 6-step process, but they could put the bullets there to remind them to go through it for whatever it was that we were working on last week. So anyway, so you want to do that, but reflect and adjust at the end of each week. It's important that we reflect on what's working and what isn't, what went well and why, what needs some tweaking and adjusting, and what needs to just go in the metaphoric trash can, right? So adjust your roadmap and the techniques accordingly so that they better suit you. It's not about what worked for me or 50 other people. It's about what suits you. So fit the idea, the method, the modality, the concept, the roadmap, the tools, the whatever. Add, edit, delete, change, shift, morph them, make them your own, incorporate them into your life to serve you. Don't try to incorporate your life into somebody else's methods and modalities. That's why you fall short. So in closing here, and in reflection, I think it's really prudent for you to take a moment here before moving on to whatever's next in your day or your life or your week, and reflect on one resilience tool that you found valuable today and commit to trying it out this week. Now, you have to remember, resilience is something that is built, and it's built through small, very small, micro, consistent actions. So keep pushing forward. Continue to log in, tap in here, listen to whatever it is you need. Remember that I'm always going to be adding new things. And then, for your homework challenge, I'd say, hey, use the resilience roadmap to take action on your identified opportunities. And if you really want to have access to the full worksheet, and you haven't already, consider scheduling this might be completely overwhelming to you. So consider scheduling a consultation with me. The link to do so is here. Remember that everybody gets one free consultation. Outside of that, you can grab a lead time, or perhaps you want to consider upgrading, right? Like your level of membership to Insight and Impact, because that's where we do the full practice. We break this down into bite-sized pieces. We have a focus for each week, or should I say, we have a focus for the month, and we have the categories we're going to, break it down into on the weekly, and we get together every week and we workshop it. We talk about it in depth and in detail. So yeah, it's definitely something to consider. But hopefully you enjoyed this little mini workshop. That was an overview of everything that, the Insight and Impact group worked on in January. And anyway, yeah, I look forward to seeing you more here, and we'll talk soon.